Hi, welcome. I'm Emily. I'm a professional psychic activator, witch, all the things. I do all of the magic things and I have for a really, really long time. And there's a lot of witches happening in the world at the moment, especially in pop culture and media. And today, obviously, we are here to talk about the magic and witches in Wicked and how you can actually use a lot of the magic in that film/play in your daily life. Like, that's something you can actually do. And I'm just gonna analyze it in general and talk about the representation of magic in that movie as well as the play. I have seen both. Unsurprisingly, I am pretty much a theater nerd. I know it's a shock that me, the person who practices magic, is a musical theater nerd. Nothing about me would say that in the slightest, I am sure. However, I do really get down with that, and I want to talk through so much of the magic in the movie. Couple things right up front, though, that I want to make sure that we talk about. Number one, this will be spoilery. So if you have not seen Wicked, one, go see it. Go now. I will wait here for you. Okay, hopefully you're back now from seeing the movie. If you haven't seen it, go do that and come back. You get what I'm saying. But you need to have seen it before you watch this video, or else I'm gonna spoil a bunch of stuff for you. Also, I might vaguely hint at some spoilers for Wicked Part 2. If you have not seen the stage play, this might be a little spoiler there. I'm gonna try really hard not to spoil too much there. There just might be some references that I touch on in regards to the magic. So if you don't want those, you might want to pause that or just filter them out, right? Just be like, oh, I don't know what that's about, and let it go. It's gonna be a year before we see that anyway. So I might lightly mention some spoilers. It's not gonna be a ton. It's not gonna wreck anything for you, I promise, but just a little warning there up front. Also, all of the techniques that I'm going to be talking about, I have my lovely chaos notebook here. If you're like, what's a chaos notebook? It's where I take chaotic notes. About what I'm going to be talking about. I will be looking down to reference this from time and time again. It works just so much better than, anyway. Handwriting is magic. Anyway, so I will be referencing that, but all the things that I'm going to be covering are doable for anybody at any spiritual level. I'm not going to come in here and give you an advanced 10-point skill way up here that you're like, I've never even channeled anything before or done any magic work. How am I supposed to do this? All of the things that I will kind of be talking about or teaching you or analyzing in the magic space, anybody can do. So you don't need to filter yourself out of this video right up front. So let's talk about the magic in Wicked and how, yes, it is actually all doable. And I know right now you're probably like, I can't fly. Correction, you can fly, but maybe not in the way that you think. We will get there. First and foremost, I just want to talk about Wicked, both as a play and as a film, but specifically in a film, it is such a high vibration piece of fiction work. If you're wondering what that means, basically high vibration fiction is fiction that actually activates you, that heals you through watching it. If you think of a movie or a TV show or a book as, instead of just, something you're reading or watching, an actual meditation that you're going through, an activation that you're going through, how high vibe something is how much magic you get from that activation. Fiction is inherently magical. Most of it is channeled in, meaning those beings do exist out there in the universe. You can talk to them. This is definitely one of those times where I look at the energy of the fiction and I'm like, oh yeah, channeled in for sure. I don't know if the book version of Wicked was so much channeled. I haven't read that since I was 12, which if you're 12, don't read that. It's too old for you. But I did read it back then, and I don't really remember I don't know if I'd consider it super high vibe, but the play and the movie for sure, absolutely high vibe energy. So it's a healing experience to go, which by the end of it, most people are crying or having big emotional feelings and expression. That is high vibe in general. And I'm not saying other things can't be high vibe. I can do a whole video on that if you want, even if it doesn't make you cry, but this is an inherently very high vibe piece of fiction. Also, I just freaking love it. I think the movie was phenomenal. I think it was fantastic. I have very little notes on anything that I would change or alter, etc., including the magic that was explored, which is really the only thing I have authority to talk about. I have authority to talk about fiction writing and the magic that was explored in there as far as my own personal experience goes. And really, they don't misrepresent magic, if that makes sense. Sometimes you'll see a piece of media and I'm like, ooh, the magic they're doing in there kind of messed up, especially if they start talking about dark magic or blood magic or whatever. They can sometimes get kind of weird. In Wicked, obviously, there's none of that necessarily in there. So the stuff that they do go through and represent in the movie and in the play are actually really good representations of magic. And there's a lot of really good representations of magic hitting media right now. Agatha All Along does a lot of really cool witchcraft and magic. I can do another video on those. I probably will do another video on that. Probably episode by episode because it's so good. But they do a really good job with Wicked in that. And not to mention it's just phenomenal and the casting is amazing and all of it is magical. Anyway, let's talk about some of the magics that are actually in the movie. So I've watched it now twice. My daughter is a huge Wicked fan. I will probably watch it again before it leaves theaters. Going through though, I was kind of checking off some of the magic sets they showed. So one, they showed Levitation. quite a bit. Think about the scene with Nessa kind of levitating because Elphaba gets very emotional. Elphaba trying to float the coin, ends up sending it across the room. All of that is very heavily, obviously, levitation magic. They also do weather manipulation. That's Madame Morble. She does a lot of the weather manipulation. That is alluded to or connected to a lot more in part 2. But if you missed that or like, oh yeah, she did do that. Yes, she did. Madame Morble manipulates weather. Then there was, of course, the magic in the grimoire or the grimoire itself. That was a huge plot point. I'm really excited to talk a little bit about the grimoire and grimoires in general in relation to that. And then, of course, we defy some gravity, right? We fly. And that is another form of magic kind of at the end, kind of stemming from the grimoire, but a form of magic in general. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go through each one of these and how you can do them. And you're going to be like, what? And I promise they work. It's going to be really powerful and super fun. So starting with levitation, let's talk about how you could do forms of levitation in our daily lives right now. First of all, if you're like, well, I cannot look at that water bottle and levitate it up. I mean, like, sorry, I couldn't resist, okay? You can actually levitate things. There is forms of energy manipulation. Levitation is not necessarily one that most people go for first, but you can find all sorts of reasons to help you manipulate energy of things, to like push an empty soda can off of stuff without touching it, manipulate the smoke of an incense to go exactly straight up until you break concentration and have that move. So that is like the ability to manipulate things energetically within your physical space. One thing I will say about this does take a lot of practice. If you are someone who has a lot of clairtangency is the psychic sense of clear touch, meaning you get a lot of energetic information through your hands. When you touch something, you can pick up on a lot of stuff or really feel the vibes of something. Step 1, developing that sense as far as energy manipulation goes, because a lot of times it really does rely on your hands and your ability to push energy from your body out through your hands. Not only is there a lot of videos on this online that you can actually see and watch, there's tons of how to do the energy manipulation. A very simple way for you to start practicing it yourself if you're like, no way can I actually do something where I can move the energy of a rock off the table or something like that. You can. Very easy first step for beginners, and you can try this literally right now. One of your hands, it's different for everybody, though it is typically the left, will absorb energy, and one of your hands will expel energy. And you can figure out which one works for you very simply. Grab an object. Hello, candle. You can be my object. Hold your first hand up against this object and see how it feels. Does it feel like the energy is kind of pulling from that? Is it moving this way? Moving towards your hand? Does it feel like when you sit there and focus, you're like, okay, can I feel that energy coming into me? Okay, kind of. And then take your other hand and hold that up to the object and see how the energy feels different. Most likely you'll feel kind of a push. Think of your hands like batteries, right? When the pluses and minuses come together, or the pluses and plus and plus go apart, right? So one is the minus side, one is the plus side, etc. So that's the way you can kind of start to figure it out. Then you can try to intentionally pull energy in through this hand and push energy out through that hand. And that is the first simple way to start manipulating the energy in your space. That's also a way where you can start to pull and release things that are heavy in your physical body, right? You can hold your hand over and absorb some of that energy out, and then it dispels some of that energy with this hand. Obviously it's traveling through your body, but you're changing the circuit, you're getting rid of that energy. You can do it for other people, you can do it for animals. Of course, always remember your spiritual hygiene. Got tons of videos on that on my channel if you want to check that out, just to keep your own energy safe. But you can also practice that with like crystals. Things that are very activated objects are going to be easier to be like, oh my gosh, I feel this energy coming in. Okay, that energy pushes out. So this is it. I'm going to suck up some energy here, and then I'm going to kind of like kamehameha the energy out over this way and see if that changes. One thing I will do is whenever I have a lot of anxiety, I will push a bunch of that anxious energy out through my hand. And if there is a fire, if there's a candle burning, this is my candle. This one sucks, by the way. I got this one at TJ Maxx, and it's like see how tiny the wicks are? Look at that. Like I can't even like barely light it, and I've dumped out, you can see, like I've already dumped out some of the wax. Anyway, beside the point. If you have a candle going and you push some of that anxious energy, see if you can move that flame. See if you can push that smoke of that incense or candle with that energy from your anxiety. That is how you can start to actually build up the skills to move things in physical reality. Levitation is obviously part of that you can eventually kind of get into. Bunnies. Maybe we don't rip up stuff right now? No? Okay, well, we tried. The other thing that is important to know with this levitation thing is Elphaba does a lot of casting with her emotions. What is casting with her emotions? Great question. When she gets the big feely feels, magic happens. That's the same with us. Energy or emotions are just energy in motion. That emotion, right? Energy in motion is what that is. So when we have our own emotions, we end up having a lot of power to do magic work, to maybe accidentally or on purpose cast yucky energy at another person, or really positive energy, or amp someone else's energy up really strongly because you're having a lot of excitement. Those are all things that you can absolutely do with your emotions in general. And Elfie does a lot of this in the film of manipulating energy because she's having these emotions. When she's having a super strong feeling, that's when she has the most power to do other things, which is illustrated all throughout the actual movie in the context there. And you can totally do that too. Absolutely something possible that you can do is manipulate things with your emotional energy. This is a double-edged sword though, because obviously even shown in the film, you don't necessarily want to do that in a way that's going to be harmful, right? Or do that out of your control. It's just something when you're having a big emotional experience, if you pay attention, see how that energy feels and moves within you. See what you could do with that. Could it be a battery for some of the spell work you're going to do? Could it be a great way to use to clear out the energy of your house, sending that emotional energy everywhere to clear everything out, dispelling anything from your space? All different types of emotions and all different ways that our emotions are expressed can be used as an energetic source for us to try to change the energy around us and do some serious and real magic. So that can also totally be done based on the same way that she does her kind of casting. On that note too, you can always send out energy to clear stuff out of your space, kind of the way that Elfie does multiple times, where, you know, she'll just, oh, I'm so angry, boom, clear stuff out. That is a really powerful tool to kind of use. And so is singing. Singing is another way of clearing your energy. So this whole movie clears your energy. Just watching and witnessing this movie will clear that energy space for you, which is pretty cool. But if you do it yourself, if you have a lovely rendition of The Wizard and I in the shower, you've cleared your energy. That's the power of that, which is super neat. You can really actually clear your energy space simply by singing. You don't have to be a good singer to use the power of singing to clear your space. That is another form of magic that this movie illustrates. If you notice at all of the pivotal points, of course, as any classical musical is, the pivotal points are sung in different ways. They are capitalizing on that energy. They're moving energy with that singing. For the purpose of the movie, it's moving us through the plot, but you can also do that in your own life. Whenever you're frustrated, you can try to sing about it. I'm not even joking. It helps so much. You will immediately feel better in your energy space. You'll immediately feel more clear. You'll immediately understand more about what direction you want to head. That in and of itself is another form of this emotional casting, not necessarily levitation, but emotional casting that Elphaba does is processing through singing, and you can do that too. And it is genuinely actually magic. It will clear out the energy in your space. Okay, so levitating, checked that off the list. Those are some ways you can use energy to actually levitate or move things in general. Okay, moving on, let's talk about weather manipulation. But before we do that, I do really quickly, I'm sorry, I know, but I really want to say thank you to my patrons, especially my Intuitive Initiate patrons. You guys make it possible for me to post content on this channel. I am so grateful for you. Thank you for being a part of my Intuitive Initiate tier. That is a tier where they get to work with me every month on developing their own psychic abilities, which is pretty fun. So if you're listening to some of the magic that I'm talking about and you're like, oh my gosh, I really want to do that, but I need some guidance, this is a great place to find it in my Patreon in general. Whether it's my Intuitive Initiate tier or any of the tiers, there's a lot of magic and meditations and activations and card pulls and all sorts of stuff that we do in that space that will really help you grow on your own spiritual journey. So a special extra thank you to Hunter, Taylor, Cassandra, Margot, Marie, Alex, Sarah, Marla, Caradwin, Angela, Alexandria, Danielle, Funny Godmother, and Meg. Thank you guys so much for being my patrons. I so deeply appreciate you. If anyone who's watching this would like to check out my Patreon, please go ahead and look in the caption below. That will have the link available for you so you can go and explore all the magic that's over there. And if you're enjoying this content or this channel, please give me a like on this video and a follow. It just means the world to me. I really appreciate it. I'm really trying to put in more long form content into this space. I do a ton of stuff over on TikTok and Instagram Reels. I do a lot of short form, and I'm really trying to expand into long form, so I'd really love for you guys to stay and hang out with me. And you can even hit the little bell thing that goes like ding ding ding, there's a video from Emily, to give you an alert if you feel so inclined. Or comment below what other witchy movies or television, excuse me notebook, Chaos Notebook for sure, my gods. What other witchy movies or television or books even that have magic in them that you would like me to review on here and talk about how you can use that magic. Cool. Let's dive into weather manipulation. Jesus, I'm all over the place. Here we go. Weather manipulation. Okay, so weather manipulation is obviously something that is done. Madame Morble does it throughout the movie, but just in little kind of tiny bursts. Like I said, she's gonna do it a lot more in part 2. And with that weather manipulation, she's like, this is my specialty. And we see her, the rain comes out because obviously Elfie can't get wet. She'll melt, But the rain comes out and she's like, oh no, we can't get you wet, dearie. And she like parts the clouds, right? She's like, that's my ability, is I can do weather manipulation. You can do that. You can actually do some cloud bursting. Cloud bursting is a very old form of practicing your psychic abilities. And I mean old in the sense of we have like documented records of people getting trained to cloud burst and manipulate weather energy like back in like the 60s. There's even some of the like really CIA documents that talk about things like that. But you can totally do that. One of the easiest ways to practice manipulating energy in a physical plane is actually to do cloud bursting, because it's very simple to do. It's just basically like sending warm energy from you to the cloud to see if you can disperse it. This is represented in a whole ton of different media. You can very much try it and practice it. It's one of those things whenever I'm like bored and waiting outside, like I'm waiting for a child's soccer game to start and I see a little tiny wispy cloud in the sky, I will send up some energy to do that. You can do it in a couple different ways. One, you can even astral over there and see if you can like kick it apart in your astral self. That's a little bit more of an advanced technique, of course. I'm not saying like astral project on your own, you got this. We can dive deeper into that if you guys would like to know. But you can even just straight up like gather a bunch of heat energy in your chest and heat it up, 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 like bubble it until it feels like it's almost boiling, and then shoot that out all the way up into the atmosphere, have it meet with the cloud and see if you can get it to disperse. You can also do that from your head, either way, whatever feels best for you, and just will that energy there. Or you can even ask one of your spirit guides, like to help you. Like, hey guides, can you go blow up that cloud for me? I want to see if this works. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. It depends on how well your spirit guides interact with physical reality. Everybody has spirit guides. It just depends on the gravity and the layer of them, of how deep they are here actually in our physical plane versus just externally watching you, that kind of thing. By the way, if you have questions about spirit guides, I'll link my spirit guide course down below. I have a couple videos on them as well, but down there you can like actually learn how to talk to your spirit guides. It's a super easy and fun course. It's less than the cost of a half an hour reading with me. It's super easy and fun to do. But yeah, I will link that down below if you're like, I want to dive into spirit guides. Who are they? Please check that out because they're super helpful. That's the #1 psychic skill or witchy skill or magical skill I wish everybody had, was talking to their guides. So if you want to check that out, there's that. So those are the ways that you can actually cloud burst. But now if you're like, okay, but that's not fully weather manipulation. That's just like kicking a cloud in its teeth. I get that. You can do weather manipulation too. My favorite way of doing weather manipulation though, instead of just kind of willing it sunny or something like that, I actually always recommend talk to the local weather entities. So there is weather spirits that exist. They hang out and control the weather of a specific area. Sometimes it can be like your town. Sometimes it could be the mountain that you're on. Sometimes it could even just be of that cloud system that's currently passing through. It really just depends. So I always recommend like kind of clear ground, shield your energy, get comfy, and then reach out to the energy of that weather system. Be like, hello, introducing myself. Who's there? Is there a weather deity or spirit? And see what energy you get back. Make sure you pay attention to all your different clair senses. What do you see, sense, hear, feel, know, taste, or smell? Again, this is not about getting it wrong or right. This is about just practicing and getting aligned with it. This is something that you can practice forever. This is infinite, so you don't have to worry about it. But once you get kind of a response, whether you get it in a feeling or a sound or an image or anything like that, just send an image or a feeling of what the weather you'd like it to be. Talk to them, have a conversation, go back and forth, and see if that weather will change. I have gotten some amazing results doing this. So has friends of mine. Like, this is something that really does work, and people do it quite often for a lot of benefit. Plus, a lot of times these weather spirits, they really like to be acknowledged, like a ton. They're really, really thrilled about being acknowledged in general. And so oftentimes they're willing to kind of work with you more just because you're talking to them. Does this work 100% of the time? No, because they are their own beings and they have their own agenda and they're going to do stuff. But it's a really cool way to start really working on some of that energy manipulation stuff of weather specifically through actually communicating with the beings that govern that specific patch of weather. So if you really need a sunny day, that's great. Or if you really would like snow to come in, you can always, talk to the weather entities up there too and be like, can we bring in some snow? I say, as I'm sitting on top of a mountain where we go skiing and really wanting snow right now. So that's the weather manipulation I'm working on. But that's the things you can actually do. One thing I will say though, is it doesn't tend to work for long term. It's usually you can do this and agree for them to like do bursts of things for you, bursts of sunshine, just so you can get home, or bursts of snow, bringing in a storm system quicker, that kind of thing. And of course you can take this up and up and up and up and up from there. But yeah, that is one way you can really manipulate the energy of weather, and it's really easy and it's fun to do, and it's a really cool way to practice your psychic and magical abilities as well, because it helps you understand how to like have dialogue with deity, etc. All of these things, if you haven't noticed, can compound upon one another and really become really cool skills and ways to practice your skills going forward and help you feel magical, which is the whole point, right? Like, you're going to be magical. We want you to be connected. Bug out, right? You want to be able to do that and poof, have something change. And that's kind of the point of this movie too, is why whenever you leave the theater after a very high vibe movie, you're like, I feel more magical. magical. That's why. It's because it's activating that magic within you, and this did this in a really cool, clear way. Moving right along, let's talk about the grimoire. I loved the amount of emphasis they put on the grimoire in the movie. They don't do that as much in the play. So in Wicked the play, like, they mention the grimoire, but it's not like emphasized as clearly as opposed to how they do it in the movie. They obviously emphasize it quite significantly and even sing a whole song about it and how important the grimoire is and being able to read the grimoire is. Talking about the actual grimoire itself, I'm pretty sure it is actually based on ancient Egyptian, the way that they wrote it in the book or the play. I don't know who wrote first the actual lines of the grimoire to be spoken aloud, but the way that it is pronounced, I'm like, ooh, that sounds like ancient Egyptian, which makes a lot of sense. Some of our most folkloric grimoires, our books of magic, come from ancient Egypt. If you think about the movie The Mummy, she reads out of two grimoires. She reads out of the Book of the Life and Book of the Dead. I think it's Book of Life. Is it Book of Life? I think it is. But the Book of the Dead for sure. And those are examples of ancient Egyptian grimoires. Now, were they exactly in a book like that? Not exactly. That's obviously, kind of facetious and exaggerated for the plot of the movie. But they're as far back as Mesopotamia, we've written down incantations in tablet, cuneiform, and so on and so forth. And in modern times, we look back at ancient Egypt and ancient Hellenic periods for some of our oldest examples of grimoires, books of magic. And for the movie purposes, I'm pretty sure they pulled a lot from ancient Egyptian sounding words and incantations in order to make the sounds of the grimoire sound like an ancient language. Because just some of the things that she was saying, and I even looked up some of the lyrics to a song that happens in part 2, No Good Deed, if you want to check that out. And I'm like, ooh, okay, those are like ancient Egyptian style words that are placed in there. So I do think they use that quite a bit. That being said, a grimoire is something that we can look up and use grimoires from ancient times. They still exist, guys, not all of them. Unfortunately for us, a lot of the grimoires were kept and books of magic were kept in the Library of Alexandria, the ancient one. Moment of sadness. So we did lose a lot of those, as well as the library in Herculaneum, which of course was destroyed by Vesuvius. We are getting some of those back now, which is really cool. They are reading them. Honestly though, okay, this is just a total side tangent. Of all the books in the world that they could find in the Library of Herculaneum, like the ones that have the chance of being there, I want Agrippina the Younger's autobiography so badly. I'm so hoping it's in there. There's a very high chance that it is. I've actually talked to the energy of Agrippina the Younger quite a bit and communicated with her and chatted with her about, like, do you think it's in there? And she's like, I wrote it for my kid. Like, I don't know. So she really doesn't care about her autobiography. I care about it though. I want it so badly. Anyway, we don't have any copies left, but we know that she wrote one. Just for the history nerds, you might know what I'm talking about. If you don't, that's my own side tangent. But there's also grimoires in that library as well. We've lost a lot of ancient magic books over time. Part of it is because of the church. Part of it's just because time. Right? But you can actually look up a lot of different ancient grimoires and use some of their spell work today. I have some that I use that are specifically Hellenic that I really like and enjoy. There's a lot of invocations to different gods in there. The Homeric hymns or the Orphic hymns are oftentimes used in spell work that are literally books of hymns to different gods, incantations to different gods that you can use to really do magic. But it goes even deeper than that, of collections of spells. There are still collectors that have grimoires from witch families, from passed down lineages that have existed since the 1400s that are in book form that people can still do magic out of those. Those are grimoires, and that's what the grimoire is. It is a book of magic spells. Most grimoires don't magically open when you pop up to them, but not saying they can't, just saying that's not super typical. I will say though, a lot of times, because of misogyny, straight up, grimoires get a really bad reputation for being like summoning demons and Satan and all this bad stuff. It's because the church and organized religion being a very toxic, dictator-led system a lot of the times, and because of misogyny and women having access to reading in certain capacities was considered very, very bad. Especially then women creating their own books was also considered very bad. Especially witches creating their own books was considered very, very bad. So if we have grimoires, whether they're written by a man or a woman, they tend to have that emphasis put on them because of literal centuries of hatred of magic women and patriarchy coming in and kicking us all. Basically. So there is a lot of mixed narrative around grimoires, but you can find them and you can still do the magic in them. You can also make your own. I have my own grimoire. I do actually put down not just my own spell work in there, spells that I invent, but when I have a big aha or download from guides, I will put that in there. Activations that I've developed have been in there. My secret language with the universe. Everyone has their own language that you can speak to the universe. You can start to develop a back and forth dialogue with the universe in general. That is is in there in my grimoire. So I have different words that mean different things. So when I get a certain symbol, I'm like, wait, do I already have that written down? I can flip through there and be like, yeah, an aspen leaf on the ground means this for me. That's right. And I can have a dialogue with the universe. Sometimes sigils that I create are in my grimoire. All of that is in my personal grimoire. You can start one of those too. You can even call it the Grimoire if that makes you feel more magical, which I kind of might change the name of mine to be the Grimoire because it is an inherently more magical thing. And I highly recommend playing with that and exploring that, especially no matter where you are in your spiritual journey. It's never too late to start one of these, but it really starts making you feel more magical. And especially right now in this time, we need that. It is a time where magic is an act of resistance, where magic is an act where we can band together and use that to make real difference. The vibration of our planet is changing and becoming more magical in general. And the more you ground that in through writing or putting it in an external place, the more magical you'll get. Plus, then you can decorate it and you can make it super cool and colorful. You can draw those wings. If you do a levitation thing and it works, anything that you want to do in there, you can. And the more energy you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it, and back and forth. Highly recommend making a grimoire. You can look up examples of grimoires online, of course. I'm sure maybe Noah can post them here, my editor, so that you can check those out as well. But grimoires are a really, really powerful thing. And that is definitely what the Grimoire is based off of, is just ancient books of magic, kind of in general. On the note of speaking, you could also say animal communication is hugely prevalent in this film. I didn't necessarily include that in my main list of magic that is used because it is a normal thing in the movie to be able to communicate with animals. Animals can communicate just speaking aloud. However, if you want to delve into animal communication, you can do a lot of the things in the movie as well. Like, think about the ways animals communicate just like people, and start treating your animals like they communicate like people, and just paying attention to your other senses when you ask them questions. That's a whole video in and of itself when it comes to animal communication, but that is another thing that you can do that is kind of in the movie, but kind of just like magic adjacent in the film itself. Next, we get to the last piece, the biggie, the one where we defy some gravity, right? So flying. That is a huge, obviously, theme in the movie, theme in the ending of the film, but it's also something that people would love to do. In fact, I bet many of you watching this actually have blocks or resistances to being human because you can't fly. Like, if you've ever been like, I just wish I could fly, like there's something in me that needs to do that. Probably it's because your higher self can fly, probably because in other realms that you've been incarnated to, you can fly. There's a lot of energy of like, I want to fly, that exists here. So seeing that on screen is very cathartic. It represents a lot of like desire that a lot of us have, or feeling of rightness that a lot of us have when it comes to the idea of flight in general. Now, I'm not saying right now you can enchant a broom and hop on it. I'm not saying that's impossible. I don't believe anything is impossible. However, I do think one really cool thing that you can do to fly from this movie is actually use the process, the series of events that happen throughout the song Defying Gravity, to use it as a meditation to get yourself into astral flight. Now, astral flight, astral in general, astral projection, there's tons of different layers on it. It's a whole thing. But the first step is always going to be spiritual hygiene. Clear your energy, ground your energy, shield your energy. You want to be protected before you do any astral work. And then just use that scene of Defying Gravity as a meditation to get you into the theta brainwave and to get you kind of pulled outside your body and able to fly around. So basically, when she's flying into the western sky at that super high speed, you want to be the one doing that, right? So basically start by visualizing that final scene in the movie. You can start by visualizing it like going up in the balloon. That starts to help, and you're like, okay, I'm in the balloon, and oh no, the balloon didn't work. I got to go over here, and now I'm talking, and now I'm singing that song in my head, or even playing that song in the background as you're meditating. Do recommend more singing it. If you playing in the song in the background works better for you, that's fine. But being in that meditation, be like, I can't want it. Right there, like start there and really start going up those stairs, going back and forth, getting ready. What you're doing is you're preparing your energy in different ways to take that jump out the window, to get on that broom and fly. Now, you can do the falling part if you want. I would not recommend that part necessarily, but if that really helps you feel empowered in your ability to grab that broom and take off, go for it. Try it a couple different ways. And then when you get up and you're flying towards the sky, like really feel yourself flying towards that unlimited like sky part, like really get there. And when you're out there and you turn around, look down, take a second and pause and look at the Emerald City below you. And then you can even change the Emerald City to be your home, your town, your place that you are. Look at that below you and then fly off into the western sky. And then you can go to different places on the planet. You can go up to the moon. You can go back in time. You can do tons of different stuff in astral. And then when you come back, you can just, gradually come back to your body, open your eyes. Even if you don't feel fully separated from your body, that doesn't mean you're not in astral. There's so many limiting beliefs around astral projection that come into our zone all the time. And that doesn't necessarily, just because you don't feel fully separate doesn't mean you're not in astral. There are different types of astral. Just embrace this. The more fun you have with this, the more magical you're going to feel and the more magic you're going to be. And that's it. That's what we're talking about with the magic of Wicked. Honestly, I could go on and on and on about this movie forever because I think it's so phenomenal. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on the magic of Wicked, your guys' thoughts on if you try out any of these things, as well as I would love for you to tell me what other witchy, magical shows, movies, books should I do videos on and teach you how to use the magic of. There is nothing that is impossible. You absolutely can do all of the magic and all of the things you've seen. There's just different ways of thinking about it, and I'm happy to teach you guys how to do that. And again, if you wouldn't mind, follow, subscribe to the channel, the whole 9 yards, that would be amazing. Other resources are available for you in the caption. And remember that nobody in all of Oz, no wizard that there is or was, is ever going to bring you down. Sorry, I couldn't help it. My daughter said I needed to do that. You are magical as fuck. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for being here. Mwah. Bye-bye.